look out, he got away.
It's the time of the year wherein we're treated to another Samsung S series, not quite the upgrade from the flagship lineup, but creating a better value crossover phone from the mid-range to flagship, which they call the Fan Edition, that provides a cheaper alternative as the year ends. This year will be interesting to see how they will fare with the competition, the mid-range market, and also competing with Xiaomi 14T series. This is Samsung Galaxy S24 Fan Edition, and is this phone worth it? The camera setup of this phone is pretty much the same as last year, same resolution, same lenses, and pretty much the same feature with the inclusion of 8K 30fps video recording from last year's 24 FPS. The selfie shooter is the same from last generation with 10 megapixel that can shoot up to 4K 60 FPS, but finally I think Samsung heard us with our complaints about the mediocre 24 FPS since all the S23 lineup to present already have the 8K 30 FPS video, so finally they have given this phone a rightful 8K 30 FPS video. We got a 50 megapixel main sensor with f1.8 aperture with dual face detection, autofocus, and OIS, an 8 megapixel telephoto shooter with 3x optical zoom, and a 12 megapixel f2.2 ultra wide without super steady video advertised, but I feel like it will perform the same. The image quality is pretty good on this phone. I've compared this with a flagship phone like Pixel 9 and iPhone 16, and it goes head-to-head pretty well with those flagship phones. The subject separation is pretty good on portrait shot. You got nice skin color with a little bit of beautification. The colors are on the natural side, a little bit stronger because of the contrast, but I love the colors, especially if you're looking on an AMOLED screen. You have a very good range from the ultra wide up to 30x digital zoom. Comparing this with the S24 Ultra, it doesn't compete with the zoom feature, but you will get a decent amount of range for its price. Here, let me show you a little bit of vlogging test using the selfie and the rear camera, all the capabilities, and some sample images. This is the selfie video recording in UHD 60 FPS. Look at the colors and the dynamic range. It's a little bit cloudy, but you can still see a little bit of clouds on the sky. Now let's check the main sensor. This is the main sensor in 8K 30 FPS video. Look at the details. Now let's switch to 4K video recording. Alright, this is 4K video recording using the main sensor. We got the ultra wide lens, and we also have the 3x optical zoom. Now going to the farthest zoom, if you look on that building, we got up to 12 times. A little bit of low light situation here, so you can see the exposure. Again, this is in 4K 30 FPS. Now this is the low light video recording in 4K 30 FPS, almost pitch black, so you can see a lot of noise on that wall. Let's check the exposure. So this is what Galaxy S24 FE looks like in low light situation. Now let's take some pictures. With a surprising move from last year's Galaxy S23 Fan Edition that has two types of processor, Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 for US and Canada, and Exynos 2200 for the rest of the world, this year Samsung ditched the Snapdragon variant altogether and just pushed one processor, which is the in-house Exynos 2400E. And with the same RAM configuration and storage capacity as last year, a single 8 gigs of RAM, but with storage capacity of 128, 256, and 512 gigs, the performance is pretty good for the last week that I'm using this phone. I hardly notice any difference between this phone and Pixel 9, which is Tensor chip Gen 4. Going for the Geekbench test, you would see that it boasts 2082 in single core and 6569 in multi-cores. This 4nm chip can perform as well as last year's Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. Day-to-day activity is really pleasant on this phone. I'm mainly doing social media and answering comments on my YouTube platform. I also vlog with this phone and occasional gaming when I'm bored, and this phone did not disappoint. Last time I checked on Mobile Legends, I can play high settings and high refresh rate. This could also change once the game developer already maximized the capability of the chipset. Also, the screen is very fluid with its 120Hz refresh rate. All in all, I think with the speed and performance of Exynos 2400E, people should not be disappointed on this phone. Given all the features it packs, I feel like it's a well thought of Samsung phone. The design is the same as every Samsung phone nowadays. Actually, it's pretty similar with Galaxy A55. I did a shorts video to show you how close these two phones are. I think there's just a difference of 0.1 inch diagonally, but the ports, buttons, and even the camera layout are almost the same. You can even fit Galaxy A55 on S24 FE's case. Again, you will have the same triple camera setup at the back with the flash. You have all the buttons in one side, microphone on top, SIM tray charging port and speakers at the bottom. Samsung finally upgraded the front screen protection to Gorilla Glass Victus Plus from Gorilla Glass 5 of last year, but still maintains the 5th generation at the back and aluminum frame, which makes this a really premium combination. We also have the IP68 water and dust resistance that you would see on a flagship phone, and the good thing about S23 FE is, some other regions like Europe or Asia, you will have a dual SIM card. I'm currently traveling right now, so I was able to purchase a dual SIM variant. And while we're talking about the design, let's talk about the front design and screen technology, because you'll be spending most of your time looking at this part of the phone. It has the same dynamic AMOLED 2X from last year with 120Hz refresh rate, but now the brightness bumps up to 1900 nits, almost similar to 2000 of iPhone 16. If you actually put this phone side by side with the new Apple flagship, it's the same looking screen in terms of brightness outdoors. It's still a 1080p panel, but the pixel density went down to 385 from 403 of last year. The screen is also bigger at 6.7 inch, so it is less crispier than last year. We still have the optical fingerprint sensor that I feel was borrowed from last year. There's no upgrade on this, but this technology works well even with tempered glass installed. I feel like the software side is the biggest change that Samsung offered on S24 FE. I think this is the biggest selling point of this phone, aside from the bigger screen and a bigger battery. From the flagship lineup of S24 that only offers 5 years of OS upgrade, Samsung now bumps up this to 7 years of OS upgrade and 7 years of software support. This is the same length of support for Google Pixel 9 and all iPhones. I think this is pretty much competes with their biggest rivals. This phone is loaded with Galaxy AI features, and some of us honestly might not use any of them. Some might use a couple of them, but it's there when we need it. Of course, we have the famous circle to search, and I often use this when searching for information I see on the screen. Now I don't have to search using a keyword or voice typing. I just encircle it, and Google will find it for me. You can also translate calls and image text, turn voice recording into notes, and some cool camera editing features like live effects and instant slow motion clips. We also have the Bixby AI assistant when we long press the power button. And lastly, battery. There's an upgrade on the milliampere here. It's now 4700 milliampere battery as opposed to 4500 of last year. But you also have to take in consideration that last year, you only have 6.4 inch screen. Now you have a bigger 6.7 inch. So the battery life might be the same or even worse, especially if you're coming from a Snapdragon variant of last year. Also, it's a little bit odd because the mid-range Galaxy A55 has 5000 mAh cell on a 6.6 inch screen. I feel like Samsung can still pack the remaining 300 mAh on this phone, but who knows. Still an easy 1.5 day phone for me, considering I only do a lot of social media interaction, a little bit of gaming and content consumption by watching shorts, reels, and TikTok videos. I sometimes even watch a full-length Netflix video. To top this, you have a regular 25 watts fast charging and 15 watts wireless charging. The biggest difference you will find on a mid-range Galaxy A series versus the Fan Edition, Samsung will only offer wireless charging on Fan Edition. This phone retails around $700 and it goes up once you purchase the bigger storage configuration. All in all, I think this is a mixed reaction for fans, considering that last year, Samsung was able to inject a Snapdragon processor. This year, although Exynos is performing really well, but there are still some features present on the Snapdragon that we can find on the Exynos, the battery efficiency and multitasking. But with everything it offers from the 7 years of OS upgrade, a bigger and brighter screen, a similar camera performance as the S series and Galaxy AI feature, I think Samsung Galaxy S24 FE is worth it in 2024 if you are upgrading from a mid-range or Snapdragon 888 phone, but coming from an S23 FE Snapdragon version, yeah, it's a personal call.
Popping over, seeds in the breeze bring trees, that's what I know.